All right, so the big fat question is, what is real estate wholesaling? Real estate wholesaling 101. Well, simply put, it's the biggest opportunity for financial wealth, and it's the fastest vehicle to a life by design. Check it out. What's up? Rafael Cortez back on the Wholesaling Business Blueprint series. In my channel and in my posts and feeds and social media, I'm always talking about real estate wholesaling. I'm a real estate wholesaler. I'm based out of Phoenix, Arizona, and I'm also a real estate wholesaling coach and mentor. A lot of people don't know what that means. What is real estate wholesaling? So this video is all about answering that question, all right? Consider it a wholesaling 101. Now, before I jump into all that stuff, I want to ask you to subscribe, like, and share the videos and the channel if you like the content that we're putting out for you every single day. That's a lot. All right, so subscribe, like, and share. Now, what is real estate wholesaling? Wholesaling is the art of finding motivated sellers. What does that mean? Sounds like a punchline. Sounds like one of those things that goes under the business card, the name. You know, it's kind of like that, right? But it's really not. It really is the art of finding motivated sellers. And what we're doing is we're finding properties and we are getting these properties under contract at a discount, and then we're selling that contract. So we're not selling the actual property. I'll break it down. But it's the process of selling your vested interest in a contract to somebody else. And the process of wholesaling looks something like this. Step number one. We need to find a motivated seller. What is a motivated seller? A motivated seller is somebody who's looking to sell their property, but for some reason or situation or circumstance, they cannot sell it via the traditional route. So they can't sell it on the MLS. It's just not conducive. It's not the best option for them. And they are looking for an alternative solution. Okay, what type of property is this? A motivated seller has properties that are distressed, meaning physically distressed. They're all jacked up, like this one, where it's so nasty, so damaged, so bad that you have to go in dressed like this so you can walk the property and look at all the details, look at the condition, look at anything that might be wrong on the inside when the property from the inside looks like this. So this is one type of seller, right? Something like that, for example, we come in, we'll walk it, we'll get rid of all the dead cats, all the dead dogs, and everything else in between, and then we'll take that contract and we'll sell it to somebody else. There is a problem, all right? There's a stigma behind wholesaling. People often think that we're shooting for the lowest answer and then we just want to get everybody, take advantage of the sellers and then, get them at the throat, right? But it's really not the case. People have real problems. People have real problems moving their properties, selling their properties. Situations like this one, for example, it was an inheritance property. They came in, they got an inherited property that looked like this. Now they don't know what to do with it. They don't want it. They don't want to clean it. They don't want to work on it. They can't sell it on the MLS because no agent is going to list it. It's never going to pass inspection. So what happens? We come in as wholesalers, negotiate the solution, make it a win-win where they walk away with a ton of cash and then we walk away with profits, finding somebody who's going to come in and then do the work, all right? So that's the solution that we're providing for a motivated seller. Now, it's not always the condition, all right? Like the example that we just saw now, right? You also have, people who get divorced, people who are relocating, they're moving to other states and they just need to move fast. They don't have the time to sell their property through a real estate agent because that's going to take 30, 45 days of marketing and another 30, 45 days to close. They need to move fast, right? That's where we come in. So we are giving them the benefit of time and convenience in exchange of profits, okay? So we find motivated sellers. That's number one. How do you find these sellers? There's multiple ways of marketing. There's different ways of setting up marketing campaigns to find distressed properties. You're talking about absentee owners. You're talking about landlords who no longer want to be landlords. You're talking about vacant properties. You're talking about pre-foreclosures. You're talking about code violations. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. It's a matter of structuring your marketing in an effective way, efficient way, so you can have it running all the time and be consistent. That way you have the leads that you need to talk to them and then negotiate these deals. So that's what happens in a nutshell when we're trying to find the deal, right? Step number one is finding a deal. So we reach out to these motivated sellers, which distressed sellers, having distressed properties or situational distress. Number two, you have a seller. Now you have somebody that you can actually talk to. you have to negotiate the contract, okay? You have to structure the contract, the agreement, the paper, in a way that makes sense for them and it makes sense for us financially. So the main skill set that you gotta have when you're wholesaling is understanding how to structure deals, right? Understanding if you're gonna negotiate just through a cash offer, if you can do something extra and then put together a creative financing deal, if you need to close on that property so you can flip later, understanding the different structures of each deal and each opportunity out there. That's just as important as actually finding the seller, right? Because if you can't structure solutions, you're not gonna be able to get anything under contract. So the paper is going to be worthless. All right, remember, what we are selling here is our vested interest in that contract. We're not selling the actual property. We're not selling real estate. There is no representation. We're not representing anybody as a real estate agent. We simply negotiated a property because we were able to put two and two together and find a solution for that seller. And we negotiated to buy that property under market value, okay? So for example, the property that we just saw right now, when it's cleaned up and it's all nice and it's remodeled and it's up to 2021 standards, or whatever year you're watching this in, it's gonna be worth a lot more, right? But we have to negotiate that property at a 60, 70% of what it would be on the regular market. So when you do that, you can mark up the price, and whatever the difference between your contract with the seller and then your contract with the buyer that you found for that property, that's gonna be your profit, okay? Stick around until the end and I'll do a case breakdown and scenario. So again, we are flipping the paper. We're flipping the contract. We're not actually coming in and then throwing, hammers around and fixing kitchens or any of that stuff. We have an agreement. Our talent, our skill set is in negotiating the agreement. So we have an agreement that's been signed by the seller with a purchase price. We take that agreement and we find somebody who's willing to do the work on that property, come in, clean it up, remodel it, go through the hassle of putting it up on the MLS, and trust me, there's plenty of cash buyers out there, but we find that cash buyer and we sell them that contract, okay? So we are flipping the paper. We're not flipping the property. We're actually flipping the paper and the contract itself. It's called our vested interest in that property. The magic really comes in when we're able to find a solution for that seller. So if you come into with a solution mentality to anything that you do in wholesale, and you're able to put together, good structure for them to win and cash out, and for us to make a profit on that, and then leave meat on the bones for that end buyer, for that person who's going to come in and flip it, actually do the remodel and everything, you have a deal. You have a deal. You have something that you can actually come in and sell. All right. So a quick little scenario, and we'll keep it simple in the numbers just for the sake of the explanation. So let's run, just for the sake of clarity, through a quick little scenario explanation of this. And we'll keep it simple with the numbers, just again, for the sake of simplicity. Let's say that we found a motivated seller who inherited a property, right? They don't know what to do with it. The property is a mess. It needs a lot of work. It's in obvious and evident distress. Okay, so the seller is in distress. The property is in distress. It's prime for us. We found it. Now we gotta sell it to somebody who's gonna come in and fix it up and then sell it for a profit, okay? Remember, we're not selling, we're not fixing the property. We're just selling the contract. So here we have this property that's worth $100,000. Now, we came in, we had a conversation, the house needs repairs, the house needs a lot of work, the timeline is crucial, the seller just wants to get rid of it because it's a headache for them, and we were able to negotiate the price of the house for $55,000. That's our acquisitions price, okay? So we locked up for $55,000, now we have a contract. And because we're awesome wholesalers, we have a full list of people who are always buying property so they can come in and remodel them and fix them, right? So these are flippers, these are rehabbers. So we're gonna take that contract for $55,000 and then push it over to our list through different marketing vehicles. We're gonna find a buyer for it. We're gonna find a cash buyer for that property. When we find that cash buyer, we're gonna tell them, listen, you can buy this contract for $75,000. They'll do their assessment. They'll go through the, whatever they need to do. They'll walk the property. They'll decide whether or not they want to buy the property. And it's incredible. A lot of people buy property sight unseen. As long as you have a deal with enough meat in the bones, you're gonna be able to sell that deal to somebody who's willing to come in and remodel it, right? So they say, yes, I'm okay, I'll buy the contract for $75,000. Now you have a gap, right, between $55,000, which is what you contracted the seller for, and then $75,000, which is what you contracted the buyer for. So that spread, that revenue of $20,000 is an assignment fee. Okay, so now what's gonna happen at a transactional level, so how it works is we go through title, you're gonna go to the title company, a title agency, you're gonna tell them, listen, I have this contract for $55,000 here. I want to assign this contract over to this buyer for $75,000. So now they're gonna get all the title documents ready and everything, and you're gonna have an assignment agreement with $20,000 of profit in it. Now, assignments work a little different depending on the state that you're in. So make sure that you do some research on the legalities of wholesaling before you jump into any of this. You wanna make sure that you're doing it right. That's why it's so important to cut the learning curve. So now essentially what you have is a signed contract for $55,000. You assign that contract for $75,000 to your buyer, and now you're making that $20,000 spread. So at its most simple form, that's how wholesaling works. You take a contract for a certain price, you assign it to a buyer for a higher price, and the stuff in the middle, it's your profit, okay? Again, this is, I emphasize, this is one of the biggest opportunities of our lifetime. I strongly believe that it really is one of the biggest opportunities of our lifetime. It's got a low entry to barrier. You need to be licensed. In most states, let me emphasize that. In most states, you do not need to be licensed to do wholesale, all right? Look into the legalities of wholesaling in your state, just in case it's one of those, right? But for the most part, you don't need to be licensed, and you're selling your vested interest in a contract. You're not selling the property. There's no representation. There's none of that going on. The agreements tend to be pretty simple. It's a simple process to understand. However, putting the business together is the challenging part, okay? It's easier said than done. It's one of those things that's, it's simple to implement, but it's not easy. There's a lot of trial and error that can take place. There's a lot of rejection in terms of conversations and the way that you need to speak to sellers and structure the solutions. So all of that, takes a while to figure out, but in its essence, this is what wholesaling is. It's not a super complicated process. Again, the core process of it, it's pretty easy to understand, okay? The challenge, again, comes in when you're trying to put a business together with systems and processes and people and plugging in negotiation, standard operating procedures and all that stuff. So if you're interested in finding more about wholesaling and how it works, again, I think it's the biggest opportunity of our lifetime because it's got a low entry to barrier. You can come in and then you can negotiate properties, and the deals on these, can be substantial, right? You're not talking about the regular $600 deal, $700 deal and whatnot. If you apply tried and tested strategies for wholesaling, you can actually build a business that's sustainable, that's predictable, and that's consistent, okay? If you want to find out more about how we put it all together and the coaching program, go to reiwholesaling.com. Again, that's www.reiwholesaling.com, and just go through the prompts. Actually, you're going to download a whole blueprint on the business model, which is going to break it all down for you, and then click on the link and find out more about it. Now, enough theory. Let's get some action in the mix. Stay focused. You got this.